information, Bruce Corker, as the board secretary, will be taking minutes for this annual general meeting, and the annual general meeting is being recorded and will be posted. We're going to briefly go over the agenda of things we're talking about. We're not going to have as much time as I had hoped to do welcome and introductions. I'll do it briefly. We're then going to approve the minutes from the last annual general meeting. We're going to review 2020 for some amount of time, including some reports. We're going to have a short session on looking forward to 2021. We'll switch over to the nominations committee for the new board of directors. We'll work on that topic for some amount of time and have a board election. And at the end, at or prior to 4:30, we will wrap it up and adjourn the meeting. So that's the plan. Logistically, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. Since we're communicating as a group, but we're virtual, as I think everybody comprehends, we're using the chat function on our screen. So if you haven't been using it, I'm going to encourage you to figure out how to use it, because that's what we're doing. So if you have communication that you need to share, then you need to figure out how to be typing it into the chat box. The agenda has been approved and it's going to be adhered to, and we can't really call for unscheduled decision-making at the meeting. It's actually not permitted in the bylaws unless there's a 15-day membership notice. So we can't be making decisions that haven't already been moved forward on. And I'm, as you know, in my role, I'm not going to be calling on unscheduled decision-making either. I already said it, but just to repeat it, and if there is anybody out there who is, and I think we covered it, we put it out in an email, but if there's anybody who is not communicating on an individual device, if they have an individual membership, so if there's two people who are memberships of one house and they want to be able to be counted, they have to share access on a separate device. Hopefully that's already dealt with. So I'm just going to ask at this point in time, since we need to get through the agenda and keep it timely, for us as the current board of directors to just go around and very briefly for a short amount of time, just introduce the board of directors from the past year. I'm going to start, and then I just ask each board member to unmute themselves and go around. I'll go ahead and just call on you from a random list I put forth, if you would please. So my name's Colauer Bandera. For the past 20 years, my family has worked on our certified organic farm in Honau now. We choose to operate a very diverse farm, of which about 60% is Kona coffee. Bruce Corker.
I'm Bruce Corker. I have a farm in Holualoa. I was a founding member of the Kona Coffee Farmers Association in 2006 and have served on the board with 1 year off since that time.
Thank you, Chet Gardner.
Hi, I'm Chet Gardner. I'm the newbie, the designated newbie, and I've had my farm here in Honolulu for about 6 years now. Wow, no, 7 years. Time flies.
Barbara Anderson.
Hi, I'm Barbara Anderson. I joined last year and I'm on the board right now. I have a farm in Mililii and I've been farming about 3 years.
Jim Monk.
I've been a coffee farmer since 2006. I joined the Kona Coffee Council in 2007, and a few years later, the Kona Coffee Farmers Association. I am your friendly treasurer. I'm on the legislative committee and on the board of directors. I have done those kinds of things for other organizations, and I believe I bring some skill to the board.
Thank you. John Zolkowski.
Hi, I'm John Zolkowski. I've been on the board. Last year is my first year. My wife and I, Karen, have a coffee farm in Captain Cook, and we've been at it about 6 years now.
Thank you. John Kuntz.
Hello, my name is John Kuntz. I'm on the Education Committee. I have a farm in Captain Cook. Bought the farm 14 years ago. 13 years ago, and moved over here about 10 years ago. So bought the farm just in time for CVB to find the farm.
Yep. Cecilia Smith.
My name is Cecilia Smith, and my husband Bob and I have been farmers for 33 years. I was a founding member of the KCFA as well, and I work on communications.
Thank you. And finally, Sandra Scar. Not finally, but Sandra Scar.
Hi, my name is Sandra Scar. I have a farm in Holuloa. I've been farming coffee since 2000, so this is my 21st year. I'm a founding member of the Kona Coffee Farmers Association, and previously with the Kona Coffee Council. And I am a retiring board member this year, but I hope to continue serving on the legislative committee. Thank you.
So thank you all, and thank you all for your service in this past year as board members. And if we had had a different amount of time, I was going to ask us to go around all of the attendees of this meeting, but we do not. So, I'm going to carry on from those introductions. I appreciate all of you doing that spontaneously, but I think that it gives a sense of where we're coming from and what we've been doing. The next thing we're going to do then is, if Chet may or may not be able to help me on this, but we're going to approve minutes from the last year's annual general meeting. And hopefully voting members have received those minutes and reviewed them, and somebody is willing to make a motion to accept them. I will wait.
I move to approve the minutes. Franz?
Second.
I second it. Oh, sorry. I second it.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second on the table, and if anybody has any discussion points or wants to review anything from those minutes, now is the time before they become final. So I'm not hearing any, so I'm going to call the question, which is to Chet, do you want to help me through that explanation-wise in terms of how we're handling this? Do a poll? You're going to do your poll?
Well, I'm trying. And now Mr. Zoom has decided that I don't know what's happening. It's saying you are logged in from
Motion to
another device.
accept the
Your
minutes.
polling session is inactive.
All right, well, I launched it.
Oh, you did? Ah.
Well, I just I tried to open up the poll option and see what it, and it offered that. I don't know if people are seeing that. People, what do they have to do? Click on poll?
Well, see, the person who's the hosts and co-hosts do not see them. So only the.
I see it.
Yeah.
Good. That's
So you've
that's,
launched.
thank you, Sia. Thank you, Sia, for telling us.
I see it also.
Yes, very good.
So you just click in yay or nay.
Yeah, it's happening. People are doing it.
Don't forget to submit.
The screen is showing me numbers that are increasing currently. I percentage-wise, even if no one else votes, I have enough aye votes that the motion carries. I will let it continue to move forward, but at this point in time, with 24 aye votes already, and our number of participants, it's going to carry. We're at 25 ayes. I'm going to end the poll in another 30 seconds. I have no idea logistically, Chet, why that happened that way, but
You got in first. Co-hosts
okay.
can initiate the poll. They can't edit it or create one.
I only did it after you said you couldn't do it, so that's fine. All right. I'm hesitating because I don't know if my 30 seconds have passed, but I believe they have. We have 27 aye votes and 0 nay votes, and I'm going to end the poll. So the poll has been ended. And see if we can share the results. I don't know how they're sharing, but they're shared.
Yes, they are.
Very good. So
Motion carried.
that's our voting technique. Motion did carry. Thank you very much. And that's our voting technique we'll be using. So now we're all a little bit more familiar with it. So now we're going to switch over and spend some of our time reviewing what happened in the past year. And it will include some reports as well. So I'll just start it out for part of the time, and then we'll carry forth. I already thanked the existing board people, and I just want to thank you all for making this last year work. It wasn't an easy year for any of us, I don't think, and I think it was a lot of adjustment, even as we're experiencing right now. So I appreciate that. I want to let you all know that I think I mentioned this last time I talked to Bruce Corker, but I have a community development background in agricultural community development. And my whole goal is to listen to all the board members and all the existing and potential KCFA members instead of, and as president in my role, I see it instead of telling people what they need to hear. I don't see my role as telling you what to do. I see my role as to listen and accommodate and incorporate. And so I just want to mention that as my personal background, so you're aware of that. This last year, one of the first things that I took on, and I don't know how many of you noticed it, but I'll repeat it because I found it relatively important, was I worked towards restructuring and reorganizing the committees of the Kona Coffee Farmers Association Board of Directors so that it more accurately represents the mission. So we didn't have things like Pest and Disease Committee or Newsletter Committee, but rather we're focused on the protection and promotion of Kona coffee. We're focused on our mission issues. That was the strategy and the rationale. And also along those lines, the Independent Voice, which is a monthly activity, is ideally coming from the committee chairs. The content of the Independent Voice is primarily the representation to the membership of what the committees are doing, what the committee chairs are leading forth. I really want to thank, I don't know if she's on the call, I haven't seen her, she wasn't earlier, but if Claire Wilson is or isn't here, I want to thank Claire for her editorial position working with our communications committee and getting that Independent Voice out regularly. I think that that's a significant, important component. And I want to throw out the fact that the Kona Coffee Farmers Association can represent all of us who are farmers at heart. I grew up on a farm. I've been farming my whole life. And work with those who support all of our endeavors, be they coffee farm managers, whether or not they're owners of coffee farms, whether they're coffee farm suppliers, coffee farmer educators, coffee people who support the lifestyle of coffee farms. I think it's critical from my perspective, excuse me, sorry. So one of the things that I think is important is the fact that I have 6 farms that touch my farm, and I always tell people the truth, which is you ask me and my wife Melanie and those 6 farms the same question on the same day at the same time. I mean, these are all little farms, 5-acre farms. You're going to get different answers. There isn't a science, there isn't an answer. It's different experiences and opinions and approaches, and you got to recognize that if you want a single answer when you're talking to a farmer, I mean, all my history is farming. You talk to a farmer and you want one answer, then you really got to, and you're getting one answer, you got to rethink what you're doing and how you're doing it, because you're not asking the right questions or you're not talking to the right diversity of people. And I think that's critical. And I think you know, our farmers do share some commonalities. In my opinion, it's critical that they share some commonalities. And one of them is the fact that we speak for the farmers to identify and protect our specialty crop. It's a specialty crop of designated geographical origin, like maple syrup or Idaho potatoes. It's Kona coffee. And that's why we continue to be represented in groups like American Origin Products Association at the national level, like those crops I just mentioned, and even via them at Origin at the international level. I think it's critical. So the 2020 year hit an emergency, as you all remember, with COVID-19 striking us. And I personally look at it as, you know, what can we make happen out of this? And one of the things that we did is take advantage of the fact that the Department of Ag recognized that maybe we can help farmers and organizations get some funding to support some of their actions. And we did one of those, which was purchasing green coffee and selling it through the KCFA label to support the efforts of our mission. And I really want to thank Chet Gardner and Kay Dixon, who is now on the call, in terms of their effort and energy to make that work and make it thrive. So to wrap up what I'm saying, I just want to say that despite the difficulties and reactions that were needed to get through the year as an organization, we've really maintained the critical things that you're now going to hear reports about. Even our membership, which hasn't expanded, but it hasn't really dwindled either. Our finances have been kept in relatively good order, which you're going to hear about, like I said. The keeping our organization on the radar in terms of legislative discussions and decisions. People care about what the farmers are saying and what our organization is saying. I even had a voicemail this morning on the topic. And continuing with education. So I want to now spend some time listening to 4 different people present on those topics. And if you'll go first, I'd appreciate it. Chet Gardner reporting about membership, please.
Okay, I'm gonna try to be high-techy about this. Boink. And there's our total today, or as of last night. Come down a little bit in the voting members, up in the supporting members, a little down in associate, although some became voting. So we're kind of holding our own during the year of COVID, which is a pretty much good news. And then I also had a little slide presented. We've tentatively scheduled, you see that?
Yes.
This is our fancy website for the Kona Coffee and Small Farm Expo 2020, which is actually going to be 2021. We have rescheduled the rodeo grounds and are kind of hoping for COVID vaccines and other things to take hold enough so we can do it in person. If not, we'll work on putting a virtual expo together. So round up members. We have about 600 farms that could also join us.
Thank you, Chet. We're going to move on to Jim Monk presenting the 2020 financial records, please.
I just want to make sure I can be heard.
Yes.
Thank you. Before I talk about the numbers, I want to thank Janine Boydo, our loyal accountant, who keeps our books so we know where we stand at all times. Unfortunately, she lost her mother recently, so our condolences to her. As of December 31st, our total assets were a bit over $42,000, and we can pay all our bills right now. Our total assets went down a bit under $7,000 in the past year. This is the deliberate result of your association continuing to fund those programs that support the purpose and mission of the KCFA in spite of income being less than expenses. On the income side, our membership dues were $6,600, up around $400 from last year. Thanks to everyone who paid dues. Our merchandise sales brought only a bit more than $1,000 net for the year, a direct hit from COVID. We also only received $5,000 in grant money to cover a number of our expenses, which was much less than half of last year's grants we received. Again, thanks to COVID. Total net income was just over $13,000, which is less than half of last year's figure. But this past year, our expenses also dropped due to COVID. Our largest single bill was operating and maintaining our website, which is vital to keeping our members informed. Renting the storage locker to keep our inventory of merchandise and meeting supplies was our next biggest single expense. All told, our expenses added up to a bit over $15,000. The bottom line was we overspent our income by about $2,000, which is a whole lot better than last year's loss of around $13,000. We can survive several years like this as we keep on doing our mission and keeping you, our members, represented. But beyond that, we will be in some danger of not being able to pay our bills. We clearly need to increase our income while holding our expenses in line. And that's the report from your friendly treasurer.
Thank you very much, Jim. I hope that that makes everybody realize that we're plugging along, like you said, because of or despite the pandemic, we have survived, and we'll carry forth. I want to ask Bruce Corker to give us a report on legislative efforts, please.
Thank you. Let me first recognize the members of the Legislative Committee who put in hard work during 2020. They include Sandra Scar, Jim Monk, Dennis Tech, and Kolar Bandera serving as ex officio. For 2020, we had three primary objectives. One was 51% minimum for blends, moving the blend minimum from 10%, where it has now been for 30 years, up to 51%. Second, there was a bill to require ready-to-drink coffee that is in cans or packages to be subject to Hawaii's label laws. Currently, they are not. They can use the Kona name with 0% Kona in the can or the package and not violate state law. And then the third objective was an extension of the CBB subsidy program that has been administered by the Hawaii Department of Agriculture. We began the 2020 session with optimism. The KCFA hired former State Senator Gary Hooser as a lobbyist. For the 51% bill, we had public support from the Hawaii Farmers Union, from the Kona County Farm Bureau, and for the first time, the Hawaii Coffee Association publicly endorsed a 51% minimum for blends. We got testimony from various Maui farmers in support of the bill. And we had very strong support from South Kona's representative in the House, Richard Cregan, who was then serving as chair of the House Agriculture Committee. With respect to the 51% bill, we advanced that measure further than it has ever gone before. It was passed through House committees and the full House and sent to the Senate. There was some back and forth between the Senate Ag Committee and the House Ag Committee, and some maneuvering, which Representative Cregan was optimistic about. But then, as we all know, the pandemic hit in 2020 in March. And our efforts were ended when, in late March, the legislature essentially closed down. Almost all of the pending bills, including ours, were set aside with the legislative shutdown. Unfortunate, but we're back again this year, and Kohlauer, in his presentation of looking forward to 2021, will describe the bills that the KCFA is backing. But we need to recognize it's going to be an uphill battle this year. We still have to deal with COVID and the effects of COVID on the legislature. And two of our strongest supporters in the legislature, Representative Richard Cregan and State Senator Russell Ruderman, have both retired. So we're going to have to work even harder, and we're in the process of doing that. Legislative hearings start tomorrow, and we encourage everyone to take the time to submit at least written testimony in support of the bills that we are backing, and ideally to have you testify in person via Zoom. This is the first year we've had this opportunity, so please take advantage of it. It is important that we make our collective voice heard in Honolulu. So that's the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Yeah, like you said, I'll be talking about that a little bit in a few minutes, but for the future, the upcoming timeframe. So our last report to wrap up 2020 records is going to come from John Kuntz about education, please.
Hello, my name is John Kuntz. First of all, I want to thank everybody for attending and let you know I keep on my screen, it keeps popping up that my internet is unstable. So if I do fade out, I apologize. First of all, I'd like to remind you that this is your KCFA, and with as many members as we have, personally, I'm a little disappointed with the turnout because the KCFA is trying its best to represent everybody out there. Even as far as like the subsidies, I hope everybody does get online because everybody stands to benefit from the CVB subsidy, extending that. And also there's now a CLR subsidy that you need to go online and do some testimony for. Then I'd also like to thank the board because everybody here is volunteers. They spend a lot of time keeping this thing running, informing you. The newsletters come out. Claire, Sia, for the newsletter, the treasurer does it. As you can tell from Jim, he's pretty right on and keeps accurate records. And Chet is our techie, and he's the one that does the recording and sets up like what we're doing right now. So basically in the education committee, my idea was to have a little more hands-on training as far as pruning, desuckering. But COVID kind of put a damper on that. And, but we did manage early on. Chet came on out, and there was a video made on shoot selection, which will probably be coming out in a couple months on the newsletter, and you can tap into that. And I think you have access to it now, but we'll remind everybody a little later that it's time to start picking out which shoots you want to keep, which ones you want to get rid of. And then after that, we did have a couple presentations on CLR. We were pretty early getting the jump on that, on informing farmers. Once again, it was out in the newsletter, and I was again surprised at the people that did not attend, because this is going to be crucial to people to pay attention to. This isn't something that, you know, a little thing on the side. It's important to stay in touch with this. So there were a couple videos on that, and then one on crop insurance that we did last year. And then Melanie also came out with a spray webinar this month. So I hope some people that, you know, tuned into that and get some knowledge. So in the future, hopefully there'll be a good pruning video needs to come out, and there is a little farm tour coming up. That'll be in the newsletter coming out. And so I stress again to read the newsletter. The people put time into that, and this is your newsletter. And anything that you want to add or change, you know, let us know. Personally, as far as education, I'm looking for input from some of the members. You know, what would you like to hear? You know, my idea is a talk story like every month. It's much better in person than it is on Zoom. You get to meet the neighbors, get to talk story with them while this is going on, and I think that's crucial to keeping some unity. So hopefully, when this thing kind of settles down a little bit, we can get doing that. So anyway, I would appreciate any input from the members as far as what they would like the education committee to do. And you can either get a hold of me at john@konaloha.com or put it through the newsletter, respond. It'll get to me one way or another, and or even on the chat. If you can think of something while this is going on, put it in the chat and say, hey, this is something I'd like to learn a little bit about, and we'll see what we can do. That's it. Good luck. Hope 21 is good for everybody. Take care. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much, John. I appreciate your report. I think it's rounds us up and brings us forward, and I think that's what we need to do. So I'm just going to spend a little bit of time talking about looking forward to 2021, and some of what I'm going to refer to was put already forth in a newsletter. So there are ideas that I have as the outgoing president. Not necessarily actions happening, but things that people can put in their consideration, whether or not they're, you know, going to serve on the board or even as members. And like John just said, I think that all of us, or many of us at least, but I would say all of us are looking for input from membership in terms of, you know, what we're prioritizing, how we're doing things, and what we're carrying forth. I think as a board member, we are representing the membership, and I think that that's what we need to strive to do. So yeah, I'll just go through a few bullet points of topics that I think seriously need priority attention in the coming year. In my opinion, I think that we need to reintroduce the fundraising and social activities that for many years supported KCFA, along the lines of things like silent auction, farm tours, music gatherings, socially, also financially. I think that those historically are critical things, and we need to try to carry them forth. Like Chet mentioned, we have state support from our annual expo, which normally doesn't happen until March anyway. So it's not like we're that ridiculously off schedule with it, but we're probably postponing it till June, and it may or may not be virtual in the end, which, you know, you're all on this call. We'll accommodate as we see fit, but I anticipate that being, a critical part of the coming year. I think, in my opinion, especially with another new board and especially given the history recently enough with how we've moved forward, I think that the organization needs a functional strategic plan put in place. And I think that we should be on the same page with our priorities and actions, in my opinion, and that's the way to achieve that within a nonprofit. And I think it's, or a profit entity. And I think it's a very wise thing to prioritize. We already referred to the green coffee purchase and distribution program. I seriously and significantly think we should be enhancing and expanding that program. And I think that we need to put more time and energy into making it successful. I think that we need to seek the resources, which isn't just people, but finances, et cetera, to ensure that we're systematically dealing with the coffee leaf rust question, because coffee leaf rust is a pest, but it's a different kind of pest than the coffee berry borer beetle, and it needs to be, you need a systematic approach for the state of Hawaii. I think it's a different kind of thinking and a different kind of process, and I think it needs to be pursued at all the levels, not just within our organization, but I think from a farmer perspective, it's a vital missing component. And that's another issue, and I've talked to a few people about this, but I think it's critical for us as an organization to have developed relationships with Kamehameha Schools, who owns quite a large percentage of Kona coffee farms that are leased from them, along with the state and the county, to develop a unified approach to dealing with both the rust, but even the coffee berry borer beetle, and or dealing with feral coffee properties. I think those issues haven't been addressed or dealt with. And I think they're more vital with the rust question, in my opinion. I do think, like John referred to some of this, the state currently has a limitation to only 10 people gathering at once. And so we can't have open education activities because to follow the mandates of the state, of CDC, we need to be limiting the participation. And I think that, in my opinion, we need to consider how to broaden the live and or virtual educational opportunities and offerings, including seeking funding to so achieve if necessary. I think one example that I gave that I feel like has some potential merit and should be worked towards is possibly the health, nutrition, growth, and management of organic coffee, which has not been worked on by other entities or people at all. Would both satisfy current members, but also draw potential members to be members of our organization. And regarding that, I honestly think that we need to have a self-funded executive director leading this group. Yes, volunteers, and we've all put in as volunteers many hours, but an effective executive director can bring in their own salary relatively well, and the board simply oversees that and approves their actions. It's not that ridiculously complicated. And I think as an organization, I personally would yellow flag wave for that a lot, because I think it's a missing component that doesn't allow us to have the level of success that I think we could have. So as Bruce alluded to, and I'm not going to do this probably at the level that I need to, but I think that I want to make sure that we're at least aware of these issues. We have at this moment legislative activities that are occurring, that there already are starting to be hearings for pieces of legislation. And I want to reach out to not just all of you that are participating in this, but to everybody that's involved and interested. But I think it's critical for us to take the time and submit testimony and or participate in what they've now decided should be the live virtual testimony option for legislation. I think that generally speaking, COVID-19, I want to say thank you, COVID-19, for that, because honestly and seriously, that's a great benefit that they finally put that in place. As some of you are aware or aren't aware, the county has had that option available for quite a number of years. And you can't do it at the state level. And every time I've ever asked them why, it's like, we'll try. But now that they've used COVID-19 as the reason to do it, and I think that we need to show them that there's, the value to that exists. So right now, right away, the very first thing is that tomorrow, Monday, there are Senate hearings on two bills introduced by Senator Kanuha One is Senate Bill 128 and one is Senate Bill 129. 128 is on coffee leaf rust, 129 is on coffee berry borer beetle, regarding funding allocations for each of those pests. And I think those are critical things to get in place so that there is money in the budget allocated. Whether or not there will be, I think the more pressure they get from more testimony, I think that they'll feel compelled to realize that they don't want to lose their farming community. So I really strongly encourage, you can do that via the website. You can do it in written form. You don't really need to do anything. You don't need to, it's too late to register to be doing it virtually anyway for that one. So you can just go to the website and do that at capital.com. You just sign up. It's very easy. And you can just type in your testimony, which can be very simple. You can just be, I support these pieces of legislation. Each of those, you have to do them separately, but each piece of legislation. So I just, again, reiterate, more numbers is important. In the House, the dates for, the sunset dates for the programs that exist for CBB and CLR are together. They were introduced by the new Ag Chair Hashem, who had worked with Representatives Lowen and Capella. It's House Bill 236, and that extension of sunset dates of those programs has an equivalent bill in the Senate, which is Senate Bill 855, which is scheduled for a hearing on February 8th. And so I do not think that the House bill, I think I didn't write it down. No, I don't think that House bill currently has a date scheduled, but we need to pay attention and follow it and make sure we're testifying. But like I said, the Senate bill already is scheduled. And then I just saw a few minutes before Chet and I started making this call thing happen that now for Wednesday, I had another House Bill 461, which is about the 51% topic, blend labeling. It now is scheduled. It's scheduled for this coming Wednesday. And frankly, that bill does not have any expense to the legislature. There's no money involved. And so that's not something that they should be able to say, we can't allocate funding because we don't have any resources, which in some of the funding bills is going to be their response, which does not mean that they shouldn't still pass them. Even if no funding is approved to implement, they still are in the record as having passed. So they can be passed without funding allocation. So 461, you can already start participating with submitting testimony, but also you can sign up to do the virtual testimony for that piece of legislation. And we really need to work on, like Bruce said in his report, help to the consumers of Kona coffee, of Hawaiian coffee products, so that when something uses the name Kona or other regions of the state, they are have a minimum of 51% in a product if it carries that name. It did essentially carry over from the last year, even though it's slightly changed. And we hope that the industry group, Hawaii Coffee Association, will decide to support the piece of legislation as well. We didn't get the final copy until Friday or something, so it's not like anybody had a chance to have that much different input, but hopefully it gets industry-wide, statewide support. We will see, but our organization can and should be supporting fully, and I hope that members will do so. That's where I'm going to wrap up, and I will hesitantly ask Bruce Corker to just note if I have missed something critical in terms of sharing with the membership what they should be looking forward to in the near future with legislation.
Yes, Kolauer covered the important points, the important bills that are coming up this week and the week after for their initial hearings. The critically important bill, in my opinion, to support is HB 461, the Wednesday hearing before the House Ag Committee on labeling on the 51%. We need to show as much support and make our voice heard as much as we can, either through written testimony or hopefully both written and Zoom testimony. So please go to the website, sign up, and get your testimony in.
Very good. Thank you. So at this point in time, and I'm happy to say that we're very slightly ahead of schedule, not a lot, but at this point in time, we should keep with that. I want to request that the chair of the ad hoc nominations committee, nominations for new board members, Bruce Corker, go ahead and lead us through that process, which will conclude with polls and or voting that I will lead at that time. So Bruce, the floor is yours.
Thank you. The nominations committee, as Kolar said, was ad hoc. It consisted of Chet Gardner, John Zolkowski, and myself as board members. And the committee, along with the board, is now offering 8 candidates as nominees for the board. These recommendations come after 2 separate newsletter articles asking for nominations or self-nominations. There was follow-up with regard to suggestions that were received, and the committee members reviewed the membership list and contacted more than 20 possible nominees, folks who we thought would be good to serve on the board as to their interest. And as a result of that process, we have 8 nominees for the board for the members to consider at this meeting. Let me just read through the names alphabetically. Kay Dixon, Chet Gardner, Shamira Lynette, Jim Monk, Mark Peterson, Suzanne Schreiner, Cecilia Smith, and Franz Weber. As I indicated in response to Jim's earlier question, we have 5 carryover board members who in 2021 will be serving the second year of their 2-year term. And they are Barbara Anderson, Kolar Bandera, Bruce Corker, John Kuntz, and John Zolkowski. Now, the committee has asked each nominee to give a brief introduction, statement as to why they're interested in serving on the board. And again, we'll go in alphabetical order. And the first is Kay Dixon, if Kay is on the call.
Hi, everyone.
My bad. I thought I was asking you to unmute.
Okay,
Yeah, there you go.
okay. Hi, everyone. I'm a returning board member, a returning face. Some of you may have remembered me. I served on the board for 2 different rounds, 2 different years. I did not serve last year on the 2020 board. Like all of our members, I share the passion for 100% Kona coffee. It is truly one of the gems of the Hawaiian Islands, and I truly believe its integrity needs to be preserved at all costs. I have worked diligently on the 51% ruling. I have promoted 100% Kona Coffee in Washington, D.C. I have promoted, along with another board member, I've promoted with other board members 3 years in a row, 100% Kona Coffee at a very large expo in Denver, Colorado. I have been known to even stop tourists when they reach for a 10% blend on a grocery shelf and said, please don't buy that, and explain to them what 10% actually is. I was hesitant to accept the nomination again this year. There was some division over whether or not I was eligible to be a board member. It is my understanding that was resolved at the general membership meeting last year, which I did not attend. But I'd appreciate your vote. I'd appreciate the chance to further the work to preserve and to further 100% Kona Coffee and the Kona Coffee Farmers Association. Aloha, thank you.
Thank you, Kay. Next, we'll hear from Chet Gardner.
I would have thought by now they heard plenty from me, but I'm enjoying my time on the board. I try to fit in where I can, mostly in technical issues. I handle the logistics of membership and help shoot videos and edit videos and play music. And actually, I'm probably going to post the KCFA theme that I composed for the Expo location video that I posted on the KCFAexpo.com website. And I'd appreciate another term to help out where I can.
Thank you, Chet. Next, Shamira Lynette. Shamira?
Aloha, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. So I'm new here. I'm new to the membership as well as a new nominee to the board. I am the business manager for Buddhist Sanctuary for coffee farms here in Kona. And I've been here for about 3 years now, and I participate in everything from fertilizing to pruning to harvest to processing to distribution, both domestic and internationally. So I am painfully aware of all of these issues that go into farming here and sustaining, our specialty crop in such a unique environment, especially amongst, farming associations the world over. So I just felt like I wanted to reach out and help my community this year. And I chose the KCFA board because you touch on so many different aspects, including politics and legislation, community outreach, education for current and future farmers. And so I really think that some of my background in event planning, politics, agriculture would be useful. And I really just want to help any way I can. So thank you all for having me.
Thank you, Shamira. Next would be Jim Monk.
In addition to what I had said previously, I am the treasurer of 2 other organizations. So I'm a good bean counter. Coffee beans, money beans, whatever, I count it well. And I think I have been of value to the board in organizing our finances. It turns out that it is not an easy job. It took a considerable time to understand and make the transition from the previous treasurer. And so continuing in this job, I believe, is of value to the organization, and I'm happy to do it. And I have been getting involved in the legislative action area. I went to Honolulu a couple of different times and made presentations to various Senate and House committees. And we went around and talked with the legislative members. And all of that was another way of supporting the organization. So I ask for your support to help continue guiding your association.
Thank you, Jim. Next is Mark Peterson. Mark?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, my name is Mark Peterson, and my wife and I run a small coffee and cacao farm in Captain Cook. We purchased that property in 2013, and I've been involved in ag organizations since being a young man, and I look forward to participating with the Kona Coffee Farmers. Gives me an opportunity to enhance my participation in the Kona coffee business. So I look forward to working for you in the next year if I am elected. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. Next is Suzanne Schreiner.
I'm coming in. There we go. Thank you. I have bandwidth issues today because it's raining so hard here. I am the owner and president of Lionsgate Farms, and we have farms in Kona now as well as Holualoa. And I was on the first board in 2006 and was also on the board from 2014 to 2020, spending several years as president. And I'm really looking to return to the board because I see coffee leaf rust not only as a physical threat to our farms, but really as an existential threat to the way of life for Kona farmers. And I'm eager to tackle that issue through the board. So thank you for your support.
Thank you, Suzanne. Next, Cecilia Smith.
My name is Cecilia Smith, and as I said, my husband and I have been farmers for 33 years, Kona coffee farmers here in Hononamauka. I believe in the KCFA's mission to promote and protect Kona coffee and its heritage while seeking greater legal protection. Thank you. Small farmers need the KCFA to help us be educated as new crises develop. We don't only have coffee leaf rust, we have an ongoing problem with black twig borer, and no one is paying any attention. And I think it took about 20% of our crop this year. But anyway, I'd like to push that one too. So we have a lot to do, and I'd like to help. Thank you.
Thank you, Sia. And next is Franz Weber.
Aloha, I'm Franz. I've been a member from KCFA for a while. I'm not a coffee farmer. Until last year, I had 50 coffee trees on my place and enjoyed having my own coffee and especially roasting it. I've worked with Bruce a few years ago when I was the district chair for the Democratic Party, trying to get the minimum requirements for Kona coffee on the platform, Democratic platform, both in county and state. I've been for a decade the president of Hawaii Organic Farming Association, and I currently work for a natural and national distributor who also carries some Kona coffee products. So my strength is logistics mostly, but I'm also involved in several other local nonprofits. Thank you.
Thank you, Franz, and thank you to all 8 of you who have agreed to be nominated for the coming board. And with that, I'll turn the floor back to Kolauer.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much, Bruce, and to all of you for your presentations of yourselves as well. I think that brought us up to speed a little bit. I think at this point in time, given where we're at and procedurally what we need to do, the very next thing I need to ask is if from the floor of the meeting at this moment, if there are any other nominations for the board of directors. Please speak up and or chat up at this moment? Raise your hand or what it is. And I'm not able to see everybody, Chet, but you're going to help me determine if anybody's doing or saying anything.
I see no activity. Although it's
Very
kind of
good.
cool to watch Sammy as she's driving somewhere.
I know. I agree. I agree. Let's not talk about it. But yes, I scrolled through twice and I agree.
Tammy's driving.
Yes, well,
That's the
Carry
21st century for you.
yes, we're all good. So with no additional nominees, I am happy to entertain a motion regarding the number of directors.
I'd
This
like
is John
to,
Zolkowski. I would like to make a motion to increase our number of directors to 13 and then accept all by acclamation.
All right. I think we need to
think that's
separate.
two motions.
I request that we separate those motions. I don't know if you can make the first one so that we can get the first one seconded. John?
Absolutely. I may amend the motion to be increase the number of board members to 13.
Second,
Okay, so we have a motion and a second membership regarding the number of board members for the coming year to be decided by you at 13. So is there any discussion about that? Please, let's hear your discussion because otherwise I'm going to be calling that question. That is the proposal on the table, 13 board members.
One quick comment, Kolar, if I may,
Yes,
from the nominations committee. The minutes provide that there should be a staggering of board members between 40% and 60% whose terms expire each year. And that will be exceeded if we have 8 board members elected this year. And the committee recommends that if there are 8 candidates, that it be subject to the selection of one person, either by a volunteer or drawn by lots, to serve a 1-year term as opposed to 2-year terms for the other 7, so that that 40-60 stagger can be maintained.
thank you, Bruce. I think the only thing I'll respond to regarding your input is the fact that you said the word minutes at the beginning and you that's not what you were referring to because it's actually in the bylaws.
The bylaws, I'm sorry,
Yes.
yes.
No, that's fine, but I'll have the secretary correct that. Thank you for correcting that record, sir. That said, I recognize that is the existing policy and I think it's fine. However, my interpretation of that is that the new board members can have that discussion. We don't need to be having that at this time. So if people are elected and that gets concluded, then one of the very initial activities will be to decide who wants to be in a 1-year term rather than a 2-year term. So thank you though for informing us. I think that's critical. Other comments on the motion that's on the table regarding the number of directors at 13? So we're going to use the poll function and we did it before, so hopefully we can do it again. And I don't know, Chet, I have to stop sharing the previous one probably.
Yeah.
So the previous one, for the record, secretary ended up with 27 aye votes and 0 nay votes to accept the 2020 AGM minutes. I've stopped sharing that. Sorry, I haven't used this poll function before, so I'm going to try to figure out why it doesn't want to give me the next question. I will look again, Chet. It might do it. Nope.
well,
You want to type in a new one, or it's only offering me to relaunch number 1.
I think you have to close number 1 first.
I did.
Hmm.
I
Well,
already shared the
tell
result,
you what, I'm
and
gonna,
then I stopped the sharing.
I'm gonna delete it and let's see if that helps us.
Yep, do that.
Okay, poll is ended now, so you should be able to see the others.
Okay.
Looking at board seats, no? I'm showing I can't initiate it.
But you can see it?
No, I can see it in the email,
Yeah,
in the, in my browser, logged on as
I hear
the
you.
main host. But I'm not seeing
Yep.
it in the polls
All right.
icon.
Alternative options are what? To click the reactions button and do a thumbs up?
That's one alternative, or just, actually, it might be quicker if there are any objections.
Hands up. Very good. So I'll call the question, and why don't we just raise hands if there's objections? Is that logical? So why don't we all stay non, go ahead, Chet.
Well,
I mean, I'm happy to just go with raise your hand physically.
okay, raise a hand, sure.
It came up
Yeah,
on
we can
my
raise our-
screen. Well, Howard, it came on my screen.
I'm sorry, what came on your screen? I'm sorry.
The poll. Oh,
It says
Thumbs up.
boards, the board seats poll?
I don't know. Maybe it was the other one. Sorry.
Yeah. So at this point in time, either we need Bruce as the secretary to be able to record something. I can call the answer, but I'm going to call the question. All in favor of the motion to accept as 13 members the board number for the
Reaction.
coming year, please indicate by a thumbs up, raising your hand where you're holding it up so we can see it, and approving. So if you're a voting member, please give us that indication, and we just need a sense of
I've done mine 3 times.
that it's passed. Okay. All right.
Cole
So
Howard, some of us, Cole Howard, this is Karen. Some of us don't have the video on, so I just typed mine in. Some of us
chat.
just voted.
Yeah, in chat, there's also eyes happening, and chat, are you going to get that record when you save it?
4 additional.
Yeah, right now there's 4 additional.
5.
So all opposed, 5 additional. Anybody opposed to the motion on the table? Please indicate so with what, a thumbs down, I guess.
Actually, I think vigorous calisthenics would be the.
Yes, that's probably correct. Very good. So I'm not going to be able to call exact numbers, but the majority or vast majority have approved the motion on the table. So we're set for 13 board members for the coming year as what has been accepted. And I'm happy at this point in time to hear the other motion. And John, if you wanted to make it as a separate motion like I requested, you can do so now.
Yes, I'll make a motion that we accept all nominees for the board by acclamation.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to accept the nominations as they stand by acclamation, which simply means that we don't have to vote for them or do a voting list of who we're voting for. So all in favor, please so indicate. Again, chat is fine. Thumbs up is fine. Give us an indication so that we know where our vote stands.
I don't think there's any nays, are there?
I don't see any.
Well, I'm seeing acclamation. I'm seeing support that's pretty significant. Again, if anybody wants to put their thumbs down or say nay in the chat, please do
You're
so.
off the video. I don't even know where I am.
Bob's on the video. Okay, so I'm not seeing a lot of nays either. Thank you all. I don't know in the record chat what you're seeing. Sorry, our poll section didn't work very functionally, but I'm going to, again, like I had to do the last time, call this as a success in terms of we now have a new board of directors. And so thank you all for your effort on this virtual process and flexibility with making it work. I want to thank you all for participating in the entire meeting as well. And I do not think that we have a lot more that's necessary to discuss at this time. However, even if they are virtual, I will repeat the truth of nonprofit law in the United States, which is that members are permitted to attend board meetings. So, you know, there's no limitation on you doing that. And if you have a problem with the meeting announcements or are unsure of how or where, you can and should be accessing and attending those meetings. You can't participate in the meetings, but you can attend so you hear them, and or you can see the record if you're not a board member after the fact. So I just wanted to reiterate that fact because that's not a questionable interpretation. That's the law of the United States of America's government of nonprofit actions. They have to allow members to attend board meetings. So I think that said, oops, I have a person waiting in the thing. I missed that. I apologize. That said, and I will repeat what I said in electronic communication, that immediately after this meeting is over, once the non-board members are done being here, if they want to be done being here, or like I said, if they want to observe, they're welcome to observe, but they will not be participating. We will have a new board, our first new board meeting, which will be to elect our officers, essentially. So, and I guess make that decision about the 1-year term versus 2-year terms based on the. So I hereby adjourn the meeting. Thank you all.